Yeah, I mean, streaming is great. I mean, we're in this time now where there's so much content.
Yeah.
And it's so much of it is really high quality. I get stressed out because I can't watch all the shows that are so good. You know, all I hear is like, oh my God, this show, and there's no time. But thank God, you know, this stuff is happening. So to me, anything that gets somebody's voice, and hopefully if it's a unique voice and if it's an underrepresented voice, even better, that's so important. I mean, yeah, we produced a movie called Someone Great for Netflix. There was this amazing writer, Jen Robinson, who created a show called Sweet Vicious that was on MTV, which is brilliant if you ever get to see it. She came to us with this movie script, and it was a great script, but she wanted to direct it. And I wanted her to direct it, but she had never directed a feature before. But she had such a vision for it, so we were able to, you know, take it around and finally, you know, took it to Netflix. And you know, I was able to go like, I vouch that she can do this. She did this amazing presentation with she created a trailer for it and a lookbook and all this stuff. And she was so confident and great that they said, sure, go ahead and do it. We made it for like $8 million, and she crushed it. She absolutely just, it's so good. If you got to check it out, it's on Netflix. And but that now she's, you know, a legitimate director by Hollywood standards, because you know, if we had to go through a studio, it wouldn't have happened because she hadn't been anointed by the studios, but she had the talent. And that's been the biggest problem with just getting more women behind the camera, is that female directors are out there and they're great. It's just they haven't had the opportunity. So the pool of men who have been considered to be verified is so much bigger than the pool of female directors who have been verified that if they're drawn from the pool, there's less. So we're just trying to like expand that pool.
Just sort of sponsor, mentor.
Yeah, the best person should get the job, you know, and so, but they have to have the opportunity to present themselves and their vision to get the job.
I mean, it's interesting, the statistic, recent Directors UK report shows that only 25% of the directors here are women, and you've signed up to the 4% challenge in the US. First of all, what is the 4% challenge in the US? And then perhaps as a subsidiary question, what do you think generally we can do here and in the States to improve the balance of sort of women behind camera?
Yeah, well, the 4% challenge is just a challenge out to producers to, within the next 18 months, work with a female director on a project. And, you know, I mean, we do that all the time. So you know, for me, that was the easiest thing in the world to sign on to. But I think every producer, anybody with any kind of power out there needs to do it, because again, you just have to create opportunity. The dirtiest thing I hear, and I hear it all the time, and I hear it from male executives and I hear it from female executives. When I'm going like, well, we have to have 50-50 parity on this, we have to have women in these roles. They're like, well, we just got to get the best person for the job. And it's like, fuck you. What does that mean? I'm saying like, oh, I don't care if she's bad, just hire her. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm saying do a deep dive and find the person who's good, you know, who happens to be a woman, happens to be a person of color, to do that thing. But they, you know, it's this weird kind of, again, this default setting of like, we don't want to take a chance. It's like, take a chance. And so, you know, honestly, I mean, the UK's doing better than Hollywood at the moment. I mean, that number is a depressing number, but compared to the numbers in the US, it's you know, it's astronomical. So, but the good thing is, the town has kind of been shamed into addressing the problem, and a lot more women are getting hired into directing jobs and in featured jobs. It's not enough yet, but it's at least, you know, the spotlight is on it. And the fear is always like, it just becomes like something that they nod to and then it goes back to the way it was. And so, but I really genuinely feel like it's starting to, it's starting in a way that it can't backslide. I don't know. I mean, again, Hollywood's such a slippery kind of place, but that's my feeling is that I think we're going in a positive direction now.
And certainly in TV, as you say, there's so many platforms for streamed content that people can, you know, different voices can emerge, because there's finally the space. Yeah. And authenticity is the big thing. You know, if you have a story, then you're the person that needs to tell it. You're the person that needs to write it, to perhaps be in front of camera or direct it. Yeah. And that's key. In the same way that Freaks and Geeks, admittedly you weren't in it, but it's you. It's everything about your childhood, your adolescence, the pain you felt, the bullying, the outsider culture.
Yeah.
presented there.
Well, to me, there's nothing more exciting than seeing a story told in a way that I would never have thought how to tell it. You know, and that's why with the things we produce, I go like, I want to create the opportunity, and I'll kind of weigh in with some ideas, but I'm also like, I want to get out of your way, because you're going to have a way to tell this story that's going to be completely unique. Maybe it breaks every single rule I've ever come up with that I think I hold dear. But if then I watch and go like, shit, that's really cool. Like I would never. That's what I want, you know. So that's why with Powder Keg and all these things, it's like create the opportunity, get the people you trust, and let them do what they do. If they want help, or if they want a feedback, or you know, then I'm there to help out. Or if there's a problem, I can help out. But I want their voice. I want to be surprised by new voices, and I want to hear new things that I've never heard before, and see characters I haven't seen before, and I want to see lives that I haven't seen before, because this is the world we live in now. And if you don't have that kind of representation on the screen that is reflective of how the world is made up and looks, then we're just doing bullshit.
Yeah, then basically it's like visiting a museum when you go to turn on your TV or go to the movies. We have new comedy writers, I imagine plenty of them in the audience, and one has said, what advice do you have for new comedy writers starting out and wanting to stand out from the crowd?
Use your voice. You got to tell your stories. You don't have to tell small stories, but you have to tell your story. You can tell it in a big, you can take your personal story of whatever you've been through that is unique to you, and you can write it as a giant sci-fi epic. It doesn't matter. But all those trappings of production and special effects and all this stuff mean nothing if that core story doesn't engage an audience, and we don't go like, oh my God, I care about this character's, oh my God, well, look what that person's going through. That's what gets us through these things. All the other stuff is bullshit. If you have a great story in the middle of it, and then all that stuff's on top of it, then you've got the biggest hit in the world. But you gotta tell what is unique to you. Don't chase, try not to chase genre, try not to chase whatever's popular at the moment. Again, if you want to do the trappings of it, sure, but make it your personal story. It's gotta be something that is unique to you, because any of us, anybody you meet on the street, if you get them to tell some personal story, you're gonna be like, oh my God, because everybody's got a unique story to tell.
And even if you asked everybody in this room to come up with a love story, every love story would be slightly nuanced, slightly different. So it's not even about avoiding genres that are too classic. It's just, as you say, your own voice will speak out. I want to talk about your profound Anglophilia. I want to talk about, but also your deep connection with Edinburgh and Scotland. Yeah. Also.
Yeah.
Was it you grew up and you watched loads of British TV? Was that where the fascination came?
Yeah, well, I always have been in love with British comedy. I mean, you know, from Monty Python and the Goodies and all that kind of stuff. You know, and just, Are You Being Served? I mean, all of them. I just love them all. And
Are You Being Served?
Yes.
I love the idea that the director of some of the greatest comedy movies of all time, Are You Being Served?
I'm telling you, it's all genius. And there's something about just, because it's verbal comedy, but it's also kind of silly at the same time. There's a playfulness about it that I really like. There's a morality to it, and that a lot of times Brits will have unlikable lead characters, whereas in the States we can't do that at all. You know, I was involved with The Office.
Yeah.
You know, right towards the beginning, in the first 6 they did, which was their truncated first season, was very true to the British one, where Steve Carell's character was as unlikable as Ricky's character was, and the American public were just like, we can't take this. And so what happened was 40-Year-Old Virgin had come out in the interim and was a big hit. And so they go, well, Steve Carell, everybody loves him, but why don't they like him in this? And it's like, well, I guess we've got to get him a few redeemable qualities. You know, so he has to have a victory occasionally. He has to do something then surprise you that he actually did something kind of smart. And that's just the way that American audiences kind of process things. But then it turned it into a giant hit, so.